Hey, you're watching Just Press Record on the Cultish Creative YouTube channel. I'm your host, Matt Ziegler, and on each episode, I invite not one, but two guests to join me for a conversation-style interview. These are smart, funny, usually a little eccentric, frequently a little weird, often very online friends of mine. And even if you don't understand what they have in common at first, just wait, because I've seen some common ground between them that I've been dying to ask them about, and just press record. The show practically named itself, seriously. So subscribe, like, comment below, and stick around at the end of the disclosures, disclaimers, and reminders. And, come find me, cultishcreative.com, at cultishcreative on Twitter, and by name on LinkedIn. Without further ado, throw your seatbelts on. Let's make it a record. Okay, I am pressing record now. You're watching Just Press Record. This is the Cultish Creative YouTube channel, proving anybody can talk to anyone if there's just enough curiosity. I'm your host, Matt Ziegler, and we're going to turn the curiosity up to 11 on these two guests. My first guest, I'm coming to find out she's just a well-rounded nerd's nerd. She loves talking data as much as she loves Spock data. If her first name was Kevin, she'd probably be the Kevin Garnett of Twitter dunking. She's got as much in common with Stevie G, the Liverpool player, in her leadership, confidence, and poise, but she's definitely without the slip. I'm sorry, I'm a Chelsea fan. I could not resist that joke. So damn it, audience.
You didn't tell me that before I got on here.
I got to make sure you get here. So damn it, audience. She's not a doctor. She's just a fractional chief customer officer and a whole lot more too. Christina Garnett, a lovely Liverpool fan. Say hello.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to chat.
My next guest, he's kind of a human Victrola because his voice can transport you through time, or in my case, it takes me back to the 90s more than anything else. I have proof, all sorts of things. This one's 99. I'm pretty sure I have a 96 one in here somewhere too. Now, Viktor Frankl said, the one thing you can't take away from me is the way I choose to respond to what you do to me. But this Viktor said, they say that love is pain, that Cupid's little arrow is a bullet right through the brain. And I tell you it's a lie because Cupid shot me in the eye and now I'm dumb and blind. Now, I'm not going to lie. I have also felt like on many occasions that life and love has left me dumb and blind too. So maybe that's why, as I've often referenced, the wisdom of Viktor Frankl. I've consulted this Vic at least 5 times or more often. He's not rude and reckless, as the song suggests, ladies and gentlemen. No other way for me to say it. I have to say this for my friends and family. It's just tragic. We've got Victor Ruggiero here today. Say hi, Vic.
How you doing? Nice to be here. Thank you. That's a good intro. Wow. That was,
Happy to send it to both of you. Now you're here because you guys talk about community building. You talk about fan bases. You talk about online people. We talk about in-person people. And I just thought this would be a really cool thing to get you together. On the personal side, as a person who was a music person who turned into a finance person who turned into other things, something that's always driven me crazy is like when you're busking on street corners, nobody tells you that's project management. And I want people to know that there's words for these things. Now, this matters, and it matters when we have these conversations in public so people can see it. So you guys don't know each other. We've established this. Christina, I want you to introduce yourself to Vic. Just tell Vic, what do you do? Give me the nutshell version.
I work with startups and agencies to get closer to their community and their audience. So I am the glue that brings them together.
Between the business client and the actual fans or the people, the customers that engage and agree to give money to those businesses. That's a fair way to put it?
Yes.
okay.
And Vic, if you were to try to explain to Christina what you do, how would you explain that?
What I do? I'm a musician. I'm a songwriter, traveling most of the days of the year from gig to gig. I happen to be here in New York in a moment. You've caught me in my lab coat, which is what I wear around the house. So what is it you do? You go from people that want to give businesses money and the business that wants to get the money, and you're the go-between?
Kind of. So basically, I do a lot of customer research. I do a lot of social listening. I'm Alice from Alice in Wonderland, except instead of going into Wonderland, I'm going into social. I'm going into communities. I'm going into in-person events. to try to figure out what are the pain points, what do people want, what are people's experiences, what are people's desired experiences, and how can we improve that experience, and how can brands be a key part of that. A lot of the work I do is trying to elevate what is an okay customer experience with a great customer experience, and a lot of that comes down to core memories. So in honor of Inside Out 2 being released, I'm a massive fan of core memories.
Oh, okay. Inside Out 2. I liked Inside Out. I didn't know there was a sequel.
It just got released, yes.
That's
It's
cool.
doing quite well. In a year where like a lot of the movies are not making it, it's doing numbers right now.
Wow. I might be one of them. I might go.
You need to go.
I love the movies.
This is one of those movies, and that one's high on my list. I also love that first movie. That was an exceptional movie. I've been very excited. I'm envious that you've gotten to see it. Now, just another question for you, Christina, was like going to see, so Vic, your band, the Slackers, have been around since 1991, 1990.
Yeah, 91
when's your
officially. 91 officially.
And how many #1 Billboard smash hits have you had since 1991? This is not to shame you. I actually think this is the cool part. You are on Billboard now, I think. Actually,
we
right?
made it last year onto the reggae charts, which is not really that much of a huge thing, but it's, but yes, no, we are an underground, we're a niche band, and quite happy to be like the underground is where I am happy.
That's cool though. Congratulations.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Okay.
So, Christina, were you ever a go out and see indie bands, punk rock bands, ska bands, anything like this? Is this at all part of your upbringing or childhood?
Not a part of my upbringing, not because of desire, but because of where I grew up. I was raised in a very rural southern town. It's literally like the underground does not exist. There is no underground. There is
strictly above ground.
It's like bluegrass in a barn. And so clogging, essentially. So
that could be underground.
But I have been to underground clubs and stuff like that when I've been to like larger cities like DC and stuff like that.
So when you think about like and I'm just curious your take on this first.
Yeah.
So we're literally talking since like 1991 without a Billboard hit. This guy's built a band that has stayed in business and survived this whole time on playing small and underground clubs without #1 hits. But what do you think about it as a company or as a business, just the idea of somebody who can subsist? What do you think it takes to be able to do that for that many years?
Well, first off, it's highly, highly underrated. Everyone wants to be a Fortune 500 brand or wants to go IPO, but a lot of the brands that go IPO technically aren't profitable. And so there's something to be said for being able to make it on your own. The other thing I would say is that whether or not you are on like the Billboard Top 100 or not, you are probably inspiring people who are on those lists that you never knew. I'm a massive Dave Grohl fan. Matt knows this. And Dave can do a laundry list of the underground bands that most people have never heard of that he absolutely adores and who inspired him. Chappell Roan, I think, is what she's experiencing right now. She's blowing up all over the place, but she's been hitting it hard forever. And so I think that there's something to be said for continuing going at it. I think it also speaks to the fact that you do have a true love of music, because if you didn't have a love for the music, you would have stopped ages ago.
God knows that's the truth.
It's true. I mean, you have a deep love for it because some days that's the only thing that you have to show for it. And so what keeps you going, you absolutely love what you do. And I think that's a very powerful thing.
How many guys are in the Slackers these days, Vic? What are we at? 6, 7?
6. Yeah, 6 guys. So 6 solid members. And then there's a couple of, guys that when we're in New York, they come play with us. When we're in Boston, like yesterday, we got guys that sit in. But it's the 6 solid guys. We got a sound guy that used to tour with us all the time that now doesn't, but we got another one in the works. And a tour manager. So it's 8 people that tour. It's a tight operation.
How long has that core, like that 8-person operation, been together? How many years now?
Oh, yeah. Well, the tour manager is probably with us for 12 or 14 years. The sound guy was with us, I think, 10 years. And the core band, the 6 guys, have been stable for 20 years, I believe. I think 2004 was when we got this lineup. And it's funny because we always considered that to be the new lineup.
Right.
And it's like funny. We go like, oh, yeah, well, the new guys, whatever. But
the new guys
20 years
ago.
Bands don't last 20 years. And on our latest lineup is 20 years old. So it's definitely its own universe,
And who's the most recent member of the band? Is it
It was and to call him recent, Aura, the drummer.
It was Aura? Okay.
Well, I think Jay joined after Aura.
But Jay was maybe around before Aura.
But that's the thing.
A little bit.
The guitar player. Yeah, Jay was the auxiliary guitar player that would tour with us, and our bands would tour next to each other, and he would sit in. And so he was not new. He's been playing with us since the first record. He's actually might even be on the first record. So that's like, when he joined, it wasn't like, oh, new guy. He was just like, well, I know all the songs. I might as well be the guy that covers the spot, right? And same thing with the drum. The drummer was in his band, and we always loved him. And I was waiting till he could join the Slackers, basically, one day.
Christina, what do you know about like literally keeping the band together, but also figuratively? Do you have anybody in your professional work that you've actually like worked with for maybe not 20 years, but more than 2 years?
Yes. So one of the people I worked with when I was at ICUC, he was the director of reporting. And so we worked there for a few years, and then he moved on to a startup. And when I decided to leave, he and I were still friends, and I talked to him, and he was like, I have to have you. Like, can you just like jump over here? Like, so I didn't even have to search. We had that conversation and started, and we still hawk. I still highlight the startup because it was a place that I started at before I was at HubSpot. And so I still highlight other stuff. I'm probably their biggest fangirl on LinkedIn. That's why I'm always sharing it.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's like, I think it's true though, when you have people, to work with. I mean, we learned that from early on in our music life.
Yeah.
The bands that were out there working, they just always, you find somebody that works, you go back. Why? You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. And when you know that you work with people good, do it, because you never know when it seems like there's a bell curve.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to like promoters or technical people. Sometimes they'll be in their sweet spot, and then you'll see it go like, oh, they're taking on too much work. Now they don't have the time to give me or whatever, and I'm sure that happens in the rest of the world. I know that we're all microcosms for each other,
How do you think about that bell curve, Christina? Just like in your own experience, like, people
gosh.
outgrow you too, but how?
We don't call it a bell curve. We call it burnout.
Burnout. Yeah. I mean, as you can see, this face here, this is the face that knows burnout. I know it.
That's the thing. So, the thing too is in the tech space, we're always chasing, and we have to chase our own acceptance, our own validity, thought leadership. We have to be seen. It's not enough to do good work. You have to go on like a street corner and talk about how great you are, but it has to be a fine line. It can't be too humble braggy, but it also can't be too douchey. And like so you're having to do all these things. And the more successful you are at it, the more people want to work with you. And you're probably a people pleaser. So you're going to continue doing that with absolutely no boundaries. Keep going and going and going until you have too many balls in the air, and then things start falling, and it's the other side of the bell curve. So we absolutely have that. We just don't call it that. But it's no boundaries, burnout.
Yeah. Well, I like your terminology. That's good. That's very I feel like I'm almost like you guys are like, it's like a psychology bunch over here. We start with Viktor Frankl, which was like funny, that's like, okay, good.
Well, this is the goal here to do, it's not the goal to do public therapy. You should do that. Everybody should do that.
Everybody needs therapy.
But everybody needs it.
I would argue that we're going to have therapy if there's a musician on here, because that's what music is. Like there is nothing that has fixed me better than a concert.
Explain. Give me a concert that fixed you. Give me the concert that was therapy, or a concert that was therapy for you.
All of them.
Give me one of recent memory then.
Saw Hozier for the second time a couple months ago. Absolutely love Hozier. There's something about his voice and his melodies and all those things. I go to see the Foo Fighters every chance. What was it?
Wait, Vic, are you a Hozier fan at all? Is that at all on your radar?
A bell. I don't know who that is.
You would like some Hozier songs.
You would like it's very chill, Irish.
There's some
Irish
stuff you would
poet,
like.
Basically.
Yeah. Or the lyrics. You would love the lyrics.
Fantastic. He just did Unreal Unearth, and it's basically an album that is walking through Dante's Inferno. So like there's the
that's
different
cool.
layers of hell and like what that looks like. It's
Sure.
absolutely fantastic. And he has a song called Icarian, which is about Icarus. Just amazing. Absolutely fantastic.
It rings, it's funny. That does ring a bell, that somebody was doing these musical adaptations of this stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm going to put it in my, I have a big long list that goes in my phone. And that's always like when I have insomnia, like or whatever, I wake up at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And I can't go back to sleep. That's I go to my list and I say like, all right, let me go look at something that I'm supposed to look at,
Okay. So favorite song of his, and it's perfect if you're like, I need to go back to sleep, I need to be calm. It's called Shrike.
Mm-hmm.
After the bird. But it's the most Celtic, lovely. It's perfect. So look up Shrike.
Okay. How do you spell Shrike?
Yeah.
Shrike.
Oh, okay. Like I thought. That's cool.
Yep.
Usually that doesn't work out that way with Irish spelling.
You're like, what do you mean?
Yeah. It's like here. I remember when my girlfriend was like, try to spell my sister's name, Siobhan. And I was like,
I have no idea how to get started.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's a test.
Or it's like, read this name and say how you think it's said. And I'm like, yeah. All right, cool. So,
but absolutely do that. And then, Foo Fighters. I didn't get to go to I had ticket about a month ago. Didn't get to go because my son had a concussion, and I wanted him to go with us. However, was able to give that to tickets. But every time I go to the Foo Fighters, it is like, the whole thing about like Southern churches and people's arms are up, and like that is me at a Foo Fighters concert. Like it is a religious experience every single time. And so I'm living vicariously for all the people in Manchester, and they have a show in Glasgow tonight. So I'm like living vicariously through all the people there, and they're all sharing all the videos on Instagram and TikTok and Twitter, which is lovely. Yeah. It's a great show. It's like a 3-hour show always.
Yeah, I like that Dave Grohl guy. I like his
He's
vibe.
A good guy.
I seen some video, what is it he's doing? He's got like little TV shows that he does, basically like little series things about going different places, and he'll like show you a studio in New Orleans or some good music
series
town.
Isn't streaming,
but
is
Highways.
The best.
That one.
Not the movie, the series. The movie's great too, but the series that they did.
It's really good.
Yeah.
That album is probably the strongest album in my opinion, but they never play the music live.
Really?
Because I didn't get to go. I didn't because my kids were little, so I didn't go to the concert when that was for that tour. And
kids always being little or concussed. What's up with that, right?
I know they're blocking me from music, but they wound up. They do everything else, and so like for example, I went to the Richmond show a few years back. And they got to a point where they were like, so what do you want to hear? And I am screaming at the top of my lungs, Wheels. And they never play it. Like, it's not a deep cut, but it's like a mid cut. But it would never be on like the main set list, like ever. So I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, Wheels. And they play Wheels. And so I don't even care. I'm going to assume Dave heard me. Like,
you get credit.
Can't convince me otherwise. That is my delusion. My delulu is that Dave heard me. And I was like, okay, we'll play Wheels. We never play with Wheels. My
vibe on I met him once, I think. But my vibe on watching him operate is that he probably did hear you. I'm gonna back you up on that because I know from whatever kind of show I played for 50 people and I played for 20,000 people. Yeah, and I can tell you that the higher up you go, it's a lot of times the more human the artists become again. It's that mid zone when artists kind of become like a little cocky and ego driven, and when you get to that next level, you can actually be yourself again because you don't have to you're not fighting for every little thing. And I'd be on stage with some band like I don't know, like whatever, like Rancid or I'd be like Devo, Rage Against the Machine, like whatever, and they are the type of people that hear, oh. You want to hear that song? Yeah, sure, we can do that. We know it. Especially bands that are not just hired guns. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I know that I'll do that. And I know that, like Soundgarden might do that. I mean, they're not around anymore, but you know what I mean? But like that level. Because if you're a band, you've always been the same band. You know how to do it.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, why not? Why don't we do it? You know?
Yeah. One of my Twitter friends, his kids go to the same school as Dave's kids. So they've been to like the parent sings together. And so he's gotten to talk to him a few times, and he knows that I'm a massive Dave Grohl fan. So he's told me many times, he's like, Christina, he passes the vibe check. Like, he's a good dude. And I was like,
yeah,
good dude. I have no doubt.
I met him at a wedding of all things, right?
Oh, nice.
Because you know how LA is. LA's like,
yeah.
So I got LA friends. And I go to this wedding, and I happen to know somebody that knows his wife over the years. And, and he shows up. I'm online at the buffet with him, you know?
Yeah.
And me, I'm also like, you got to realize I'm not one of these guys that I'm not too on the ball most of the time, especially when the sun's out. So it's like, we're sitting there, and I'm just like, I kind of look over, and I'm like, how do I know you? You look familiar. I'm like, have we played together? You know? And he's like, I don't think we played together. He's like, I would remember you. He's like, but I play in some bands. And he lists these, you know, he's like, well, I played in this band, like in the punk scene. And I was like, you know, DC. I'm like, well, I'm from New York. I'm like, maybe, you know, he's like, Scream. You ever heard of it? I'm like, Scream. I'm like, why do I know that name?
See the T-shirt. Yeah.
Yeah. And then he's like, you know, Nirvana. And I was like, oh. But it was just funny the way that like, he waited, you know. It was like I kind of
feels very much on par with him. Yeah,
I related to the rhythm of it, where I was.
He didn't want to lead with McCartney at the White House.
Yeah,
started with Scream just in case.
Yeah. He was like, well, you know, I mean, and I think maybe, you know, I know that punks, we all can kind of like, we sniff each other out, you know.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like I think that's the reason I said hi in the first place. I was like, guy seems kind of like a musician, and I'm like, musicians all have something to talk about always. And it was kind of like that. But I remember as the day went on, and he was just very gracious, really sweet guy. And it was, I guess, like I'm saying, it's in step with a lot of the people I know that are actually famous that I've met that could have been dicks if they wanted to be, you know, and I got no recourse. And it's like, actually, it's actually nice to see that people, there is a lot of grace up there in the artistic world, you know?
Yeah. Do you feel like there's something like there's the good middle, there's the good dip, and there's the bad dip? The good dip is like you're on the ascent and you're finally like, well, I'm not small anymore, so I can be a little bit cocky. And then there's like I don't need to be on the top, so I'm comfortable not being on the top, but I'm also happy I know I'm not on the bottom. Can you differentiate between those two?
Well, the second one is me.
Yes, it's an underhanded compliment to you. Christina, what were you going to say about that?
I was going to say, like, there's kind of the perfect example of someone who could have been big, but loved the music too much to go that big. And it's Steve Albini. We just lost.
A great example.
Good dude. Good dude. Could have been so much bigger, but he was more about the love of the music. And he was featured. And they talk about how he did like the Nirvana albums, and he could have gotten so much more money. And he was just all about the music, and we lost a real one. So I feel like we can't talk about punk. We can't talk about the love of the music without talking about Steve.
You know the Courtney Hull thing about when they were recording In Utero and her getting mad at Dave Grohl and Steve Albini, what they were doing after they finished everything so fast.
Can I state for the record that every cell in my body hates Courtney Love?
Oh, no.
No.
Single cell.
No. Everyone.
All of them. All of them. Because every time someone puts a mic in front of her, she talks trash about Dave. And I'm just like, one of these days, I'm going to be in the room. I'm going to smack that mic right out of your face.
Wow. I didn't know this. I'm not in on it.
Every other interview, she talks trash about Dave. And Dave is a better person, so he doesn't say anything. But if I'm in the room with her, I'm not going to be the better person. Like,
I respect this take.
I'm just not. And you're like, all right, run your mouth.
I respect this take. Allegedly, Steve Albini and Dave Grohl, once they finished recording between the prank calls, because they were prank calling what's his name from Kiss, and he was
yes.
That's an amazing story. Yeah, apparently they were lighting farts on fire outside or something. Just like, I'm done with this.
I mean, that's the thing too, is like the best musicians are just kids. They're just grown up kids. Like, they just want to have fun. They just want to vibe.
This is what I find though with all the people that I run into that are good at what they do, especially if it's creative And that doesn't have to be just arts creative, because I have creative attorneys. I have creative, everybody's creative, plumbers, it doesn't matter. But there are people that go into things with a fresh mindset. They're not, and I try to always remind myself about this too. I don't know it all. And all the people that I find the truth in are it's way the Greeks said it way back when.
Yeah.
But it's it's constantly asking questions and
Yep.
Yeah. I remember
Did you ever see the horror movie?
Mm-mm.
The 606 Studios that Dave did? You should watch that. Especially if you like
the movie. Okay. Yeah.
It's basically what if the Foo Fighters did their own version of the Evil Dead, but in LA?
It's fantastic. It's
camp.
Yeah.
It's full camp. If you walk in understanding it's camp, you're gonna love it. If you go in expecting like Carpenter, you're gonna hate it. It's not the thing. Like it's not gonna be that.
But they were recording or something. So yeah, this is just gonna devolve into Dave Grohl stories. They were recording or something, and like they had the idea. It was one, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Vic, too, where it's like you have the idea and you're already with your friends, your band, your people.
Mm-hmm.
And what starts as a joke just progressively turns into are we really doing this?
Mm.
And it keeps getting
escalates. Yeah.
Oh, the Slackers made a zombie movie on the road. We made two actually. One involves another band, which went completely off the rails. But I got to say, the first.
How far back is this?
This is like 10 years ago. Probably
Okay.
10 years ago.
Is it on YouTube?
It's on YouTube. I think we call it, because our sax player is Dave Hilliard, and I think we call it Dave of the Dead. I think it was called Dave of the Dead.
Okay, we got to put that in the show notes, Matt.
We're gonna find Dave of the Dead.
But it was really good. It was actually really funny too, because of course we have all these frustrated filmmakers and directors, in the midst. So like I got my camera and I'm like trying to get these like moody shots, and then Jay, the guitar player, is like, he actually studied film. So he's like, no, it's got to be like this. Look, we're going to do this thing. Everybody's like putting on their best, like zombie, like, whatever their favorite era is. It was very funny.
And we got two of these?
There was two of them. Yeah. The first one was, serious, just black and white kind of. And the second one went kind of camp.
Yeah.
But what happened is that we bought a bag of flour to like put on, the zombie faces, right? And later that night, we're coming off a gig in Italy, actually, because we filmed the second one started in Italy. It's like what you're talking about.
Like Jala on this, yeah.
You have the idea, and you're just there, and we're like, we have a completely nothing day. It's like, well, let's go in the cornfield and start the next horror movie. Let's start it now.
Like you do.
Yeah, somebody go buy a bag of flour. So they go down and they buy a bag of flour, and okay, we do the thing. Later that night, the Italian promoter was having problems paying us, and it was like one of these classic situations where we're just like, oh God, the guy overspent, and he's trying to give us the thing. Hey, how about if I buy you dinner? Hey, what if I get you this? Hey, da 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 da. So some of us are coming back, and we walk into the front of the bus. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, there's all these lines laid out on the table. And of course, none of us think that it could be the flour that we just used for the zombie movie. You just see the psychosis of like what band life does to you. And like, three of them are sitting there with the lines chopped up, and three of us walk by, and it's like, everybody just flipped. It was like, what? Of all things, now at this moment, this is what happens. We're like, we knew it. The Italian promoter came back and said, "Hey, I'm sorry, I can't pay you, but here I have a lot of good cocaine. Can I hear it? But I give to you. And then we come back, and we're like, Jesus Christ! Now half the band's snorting lines on the table over here. Well, these guys run to the back of the bus. They're pissed off. The tour manager's like, yeah, I remember this happened with my other band too. It's the same thing. It happens the same time every time, And it was just like, and the guys that were like, thought it was going to be a simple little joke, just a little goof prank, all like, wow, this totally went to the next level. Like that, where half the band's locked in the back of the bus now, beautiful moments. Like these are the moments. These are when you know that you're not mentally healthy, But yeah, it's good. I don't know why. There was a way I was going to wrap it back around, but I just had to share that where the zombie movie led.
Look, you're with your friends. You're with people you trust, even when the situation goes completely off the rails or on the rails, depending on which cocaine reference you want to use in this moment. But like you have to have your people for when the stuff completely hits the fan, and then to have something completely creative happen around it.
Yeah.
Like even to come up with the idea to make a horror movie on tour in Italy because you have a day off.
Yeah.
Like that speaks volumes of the group of people you're with. That is both a viable and good idea.
Yes. I know it's great to be around really good people like that. I mean, these are the guys that quit their jobs. You know, that's what always started with me was, you know, we were kids. We were like in our 20s. Everybody wanted things. We were all trying to live in New York. I mean, sure, New York was cheap back then, but you know, we're all trying to live and do our things. You had to quit your job every month, every 2 months, and go out on tour for 2-3 weeks, sometimes 6 weeks. Hope you made your rent. Maybe you gave up your apartment or your room and came back and then needed to find a job and a room and probably a girlfriend, you know? And it's like, you had to have adventurous people that were totally willing to throw it all into the void. But
and see what sticks. Yeah.
Yeah. And back then it was 7, 8 guys, you know, we had a pool to pull from. And there were people that would be like, sorry, I can't do it. I just can't do it this time. Or, you know, they'd fry out. Guys fried out after 10 years. It was tough, you know?
Well, and I think Christine, will appreciate this just because it go all the way back. So like the Slackers are getting together. You're starting the band and you're doing this too. You're doing how many different bands at the beginning, like pre-official Slackers or right as the Slackers are official?
Yeah, there was 2 or 3 things. New York is, of course, and I know every little scene. We all play in different bands. So everybody had a couple bands, mostly the Slackers, but we had an all-star group, you know, that was like all our favorite guys, different things like that, punk bands.
And then as that stuff starts to gel, like other little things start to gel. And I'm trying to when was like how the connection with Rancid comes out in the early or mid 90s?
Yeah,
when you start doing the writing with them.
Yeah.
But that only happens because you end up on tour opening up?
Yeah. Well, they were looking around for a horn player and we happened to be in a session. And they were like, we need a punk trombone player. That narrowed the choices down quite a bit. And they found a guy that I was playing with, this guy, Jeff Baker. He gets the call. He does the thing. He brings a CD. They hear the CD. Hey, we like what you guys are recording. Next thing you know, we're on tour with them. It's all opportunity, you know. I'm an organ player. So I said, I heard you have organ on your record. I don't see an organ player, but I am here. Here I am. And then they were like, yeah, why don't you come play the parts? You know the parts? I was like, you got it, man. I'll do it. And then next thing you know, I'm writing songs with them, you know, but that's how it works. It's just simple. I mean, I'm sure it's the same in every industry. You know, you say, hey, here I am. You know, you need somebody, right?
Christina, what do you think about that? It's the same in every industry. I hear the freelancer word like underneath the tone of all these things. You know about these people.
I think it's true, but I think that it's true in the sense that it's only working if you're good. Because there's a lot of people who are trying to do like the freelancer and contractor play, which is fine, but then like you don't have a logo to kind of hide behind. So the work is the work. So I think that's true. If like what we were talking about earlier, if you get along with somebody, but also if they're good, like they have to actually be good.
Yep.
And I think the freelancers that do a really good job, the best way to get referrals is to do really good work. It's
it's the same.
Yeah, it's word of mouth. It's you have to work with so-and-so. They're amazing. Yeah. And so the thing is that like you can raise your hand to get in the door, but if you were crap, it doesn't matter how eager you were.
Yeah.
Like it's irrelevant. You got to be good at the end of the day. And so I think there is a parallel there. It's very true, but it's only true if you're good.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, well, that's the same
craft. Yeah.
Yeah. You're not going to get another call for another gig. You know, they're not going to say, hey, come on the next tour. If you're there, they were like, Jesus, that guy, you know?
And I also think that that's something that we also see in the tech space and in like corporate world too is, you have to build up a lot of bad will for people to openly talk bad about you. They'll just spread the word like in closed doors.
Is this another Courtney Love subtweet, or is
It
everything
is
just
not.
okay?
I'm behaving. No, but say for example that you work with someone really horrible. They can either be a peer or they can be a boss. You might openly talk to your friend about like how horrible the experience is, but you're not going to go on LinkedIn and blast them.
Yeah, right.
That's what Twitter's for, to blast people.
Well, even on Twitter, you're not going to do that because at the end of the day,
the social cost.
There's a social cost. And for musicians, it's kind of the same way where you have to essentially build up a lot of bad will to the point where it's going to leak out. It's going to come out. There's no way to contain it all. And so I think like in the music world as well as that, like over time, people tell on themselves. Like you start seeing patterns and you're like, oh, that's who you are. It's the same thing in corporate where you see people like you keep getting fired from like the same kind of jobs, or no one wants to work with you, or I see that no one wants to recommend you for positions, even though they've worked with you. And I know they've worked with you. Like they say all the things, like they'll say the truth. They're just not, they're saying it behind closed doors.
Yeah. I mean, I think the problem is, the thing I'm always trying to figure out is how do we end up like, and then this is music, this is everything in the world. Yeah. How do we all end up like when we all meet and we find ourselves in the 2020s and everything is just like, it's kind of like deadlocked mediocrity, you know? And I'm like, well, what happened to you? Like we all got so good at figuring out marketing. We got so good at figuring out technology, music, what people like, what people want, how people dress, how to da-da-da.
I can actually answer this.
Yeah, because I need to know this
what you're here for, Christina.
It just feels like, we ended up with tan. You know, we ended
up
with,
It's because we've commodified everything. And in order to commodify everything, you have to make it easily replicable. That's why fast fashion is a thing. It's why every pop song has like a recipe. It's what they're doing is they're like, how can I repeat this success over and over and over and over and over again? There's a thing, I think there's a YouTube video, and it has these, they basically play the chords of all these songs on top of each other, and it's the same song.
Yeah,
the exact same song. So what they've done is, look at LinkedIn. Half of my feed is people doing memes. Like that's their entire social strategy is meme. Like that's
I don't know. I don't know LinkedIn. I people send me invites and I'm like, I don't know what it is. So
avoid. That's
good.
Self-care is avoiding LinkedIn. But what I would do is, if you look at how we've commodified everything is corporatized. So everything has to be bought and sold and replicated over and over and over again at scale. And the only way to do that is to be able to remove anything that made it original. So that's why you wind up with tan. That's why you wind up with mediocre. That's why Warner Brothers is actually deleting and refusing to publish the movies that are actually exciting to people versus us getting The Flash, whatever that was.
Yeah.
So what they've done is, how can we replicate this? Marvel. I'm a massive Marvel fan, but Marvel has fallen into the same thing. You walk into a Marvel movie now and you know there's going to be jokes at the most random times. You know that there's going to be a baddie who's going to like have this specific kind of background, even if that's not the background from the comics.
Yeah.
They themselves have turned into a recipe, but that's what it is. We've corporatized and commodified everything, and the only way to do that at scale is to make it so it's a copy paste situation. So we have copy pasta everywhere, and you can't copy and paste masterpieces. You can't copy and paste art, real art.
Yeah.
And so that's my reason why I think it's happening.
I mean, the thing is, I've seen it happen over time. I mean, if you look at the 60s, you look at the 50s, like when rock and roll first started, there's a lot of crap rock and roll that was made just cookie cutter. They were like, oh yeah, get this guy, put him up there. You know, they had Fabian, they had people that couldn't sing or do whatever. They were good looking or they could dance. And of course, we look back and the gems remain, right? So, some of them. There are definitely some lost.
Yeah.
And in the 60s, you know, you had a hit. The next song was basically the same song with a couple of different words. You can't even hardly tell them apart because they were trying to commodify. They were trying to make it happen.
Yep.
But I just heard something that Frank Zappa said. And he was like, he was saying something about how like, it was like the music industry was better when the people up top really were just business minded, like they were just accountants, you know, because they didn't pretend to think that they had any opinion on music. I'm not 100% sure because like there's, you know, it flips and flops over there. Chess Records did some beautiful stuff and they were very business minded with the blues, you know, and doo-wop. I don't know. It's hard. I feel like, yeah, I'm inundated by this. I was looking for the right word, but it's the beige light. You know, all the things that I'm surrounded by are like, like, you know, Taylor Swift. Okay, she's cool, whatever. 17 out of the 20 top singles. I mean, I'm starting to believe that she might actually be a CIA operative. You know what I mean? It's like, what is this? You know, and it's like her. You got that thing, which is beige life. Even though I guarantee she's got some, I see it. She's got something, but it's getting squashed. Peppered in between that is like the worst, scariest, like gangster trap rap that you ever heard to make sure that we're still scared of the black people. And then it's like one guy maybe in the middle that's doing like, oh, wow, that guy can actually sing. And it's like, but of course it's a cover. It's like Otis Redding cover by like a white guy with tattoos, you know? And I'm just like, what happened? We are at the pinnacle of humanity right here. Like everybody can make a record in their room. We got more access to things than we've ever had. And this is what we arrive at. It's very, you know.
I'm gonna come out and defend Taylor Swift.
Yep, go, please.
This is also what you're here for.
Yeah.
Take that, Courtney Love. Here's Taylor Swift Love.
I know, right?
Go.
The thing is that like love Taylor Swift or hate Taylor Swift, I absolutely think she is insanely talented. But no one on earth has ever activated or figured out how to activate their fan base like she has. You will create 10 different album versions of the same songs, change one thing about them, and someone will go and buy 5 of them. Like, she knows how to activate her crowd better than any single marketer on this planet. Like, people talk about how great a marketer Ryan Reynolds is. Taylor Swift's better than he is.
Well, it's what we
knows.
Yeah, but it's one of those things too. It's funny because we, as an underground group, we know about that. We're like, oh, punk bands have always done that. It's like, oh, you get the green vinyl, the blue vinyl, the splatter vinyl. Oh, there's a different version. Oh, you got to buy this record. Reggae,
limited
reggae
release.
Invented that.
Oh yeah.
Reggae is like if you're looking for the song that you remember in your head, you'll never find it.
Rhythm will ruin you. When you learn about rhythm, it ruins you.
Yeah, there's 20 versions of the song.
You'll never find it.
All with different things. You're like, oh God, but what's the one with the organ solo? But yes, I applaud people who do that because I think, yes, creativity and activating your audience. I mean, we learned it. The Slackers learned it in COVID. God, our audience really showed up for us. We got tighter with our crowd.
Good.
In that adversity. They showed us that they loved us and we showed them that we loved them.
But talk specifically about this. I think this is really interesting. And Christina, I want your input on this. So COVID happens. You've got what, like 100, how many shows a year? 150? How many shows a year are you guys doing?
About 100. We used to do 150 now. Yeah, about 100.
Okay. So you're going into COVID. The plan was up until all that happens, you're expecting to do, 150 shows over the next calendar year. Yeah. And then COVID shuts everything off.
Right.
So just talk about number one, what you go through, but then number two, like how you started to put together the online connections with fans and with just performing and soup recipes.
Yeah. I mean, well, I was looking forward to a little vacation. I was mid-tour when COVID happened. I was in Germany and I was trying to get stuck there because I was like, hey, what better place to get stuck? Good beer. Nobody's going to bother me. I got a friend's place I can stay in. But no, I got back and immediately my band, I'm lucky to have some very focused characters. They were like, we got to go online. We got to play online. And so we started doing live streams, little, from the room, from the basement. I didn't realize how much people were going to go for it. I had never done stuff like that. And then the Slackers learned how to wire up the house. The engineer, wired up his house. We learned how to do live streams, how to aggregate it in a way that you could play Japan and Europe and the US all at the same time on the same day. Beautiful. We have to remember to keep doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was great. It was, I was checking in with everybody. It was the first time I lived a digital music life. And in some ways I was busier than I would be if I'm just traveling. What I do day to day feels busy because I got to wake up, I got to drive there, I got to set up, I got to play, I hang out with people. But the actual mechanism of connecting with people or whatever digitally it was pretty intense, you know? Yeah.
What do you think about that, Christina?
I love it. I was assuming that's where you were going to go, because that's the thing too, is when you see such a huge disruption, you have to go where people are. And so when, just as much as you felt disconnected and felt like your way of life was completely shut down, so were all the people who were feeding off of your concerts, who were the best thing that was going to happen to them that month was getting to see you perform.
Yeah.
And so providing an opportunity for them to still have an outlet to you is huge, because it gives you the outlet that you need to be able to perform, but it also opens that up to them. So in the long run, they felt more special. It felt more intimate. It felt more necessary because you were still letting them tap into something like we talked about earlier, like music is therapy. I will not be convinced otherwise. And so you're giving an outlet for people who are desperately in need of something to calm their soul down. Because we're all dysregulated. None of us have control over the situation. We're all just trying to get it day by day. Probably had tickets to shows, travel, all these other things that are completely shut off. And so you're giving an outlet to those people in a way that they're going to remember that. Like we talked about core memories earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
They're members of your community. Them getting to see you live when like the rest of their day was like, I don't know if I'm going to lose my job. I don't know what I'm going to do with my kids because they're driving me crazy because they can't go to school right now.
Yeah.
Like all of those things, you were creating an opportunity for them to enjoy something they love that they literally can't experience otherwise. There are people who are going to remember those live sessions with you for the rest of their lives. Like,
yeah, I know. I was amazed at how much it comes up in the past couple of years now that we're back on tour.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, they were all like, God, that show in the basement of your place, and when you went out in the woods that time, and da-da-da. And I'm like, yeah, it meant something to me too, because I was connecting.
What do you think that is? What do you think that is?
It's a core memory.
Yeah, I mean, it was intense. I mean, I remember what I liked a lot and what I still would like to learn how to do more regularly, and I've been terrible about it. But it was one of those weird things where, like, so I'm sitting here. This is bringing back a bit of a visceral sensation for me, right? Sitting here, playing my guitar, and then you'd see, the words start coming up, the scrolling up. It's the weird moment that you actually get to like read the minds of the audience or have a conversation with the audience as it's happening in real time. I'm looking at people always when I play and wondering what the hell they're thinking. And very often I'm wrong. Now, to see them say, oh, I wish he would play this. Oh, don't you really like blah, blah, blah. Hey, nice shirt, Vic. Hey, da-da-da-da-da. Hey, what's that in the background? And I'm just like, yeah, hey, wow, cool. I get to have like, this is actual intimacy.
Yep.
On a level. And I would love to, we knew where everybody was at that point. It was a gift. We were all trapped and we were all looking at our screens and, definitely the bigger people in the picture also knew that, and they definitely got us. They got their claws in. I got my claws in a little bit too. I want to know, where do I do that still? I probably can still do that. Say, hey, I'm going to go online. I don't think about doing it because, like, I have a day off. I just want to sleep, like today.
Are you on TikTok?
TikTok, I don't know. I lost my password on TikTok, and I never got to sign back in. So no.
Maybe
Instagram.
YouTube Shorts. Okay, or Instagram Live. Yeah,
Instagram
I would do that.
Yeah,
I would do like a Friday night set whenever there's like a Friday or a weekend night where you don't have any plans, but you're like, dude, I just want to jam for like an hour.
Yeah.
Invite people to come. Give people enough, like at least a week notice so they can sign up. Let them know how you're going to do it. But it doesn't have to have like high production value.
Yeah.
People just desperately want to connect. And there's probably people who would love to see you, but they can't tour, or they have kids and they're like, I can't get a babysitter, but they would love to just jam with you. Or you could honestly do an AMA. Like,
what's that?
People who would, Ask Me Anything.
Oh, yeah. People told me to do that. I was always kind of
You should
afraid
do
of it.
that.
Yeah?
No, you should absolutely do that. There's people who they've heard of punk, have no idea what punk music is, have no idea what the scene is, have no idea. You could do an AMA and just and it literally be like you not even performing, but you getting people like scrolling with the comments and you having a conversation with the people who are watching. It's a huge
You might
way
have to tell me
what's
the best place to do that, or what's the best.
It really depends on where your audience is.
Christine, if we were going to get Vic
Yeah.
to do a live, like, Ask Me Anything, would we do it on like Instagram, or would we do it on like what that's where most of the platform is, I think.
Yeah. I would do Instagram or TikTok. The only difference is that for TikTok, you have to have, I think it's at least 1,000 followers before you can go live.
Yeah.
But
I was trying to kickstart my trap career on TikTok. That's what I was. I looked at it. I looked at it as just a surreal event. I got in early, and then I was like, "Oh, this is ridiculous." Anyway.
But I would honestly I would do like an Instagram reel and let your followers know, like, hey, and you can honestly do stories where you wouldn't even have to do an AMA online. You can do a story where it's a bubble and it says like, ask me anything, and people can come on and ask questions.
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea, actually. Yeah, that is a good idea.
You can respond with little videos that answer that question specifically, so people get to talk to you one-on-one.
That's right. I see that.
It's a huge way to drive connection between you and the people who follow you online.
Yeah, that's true. I have to remember to keep that connection. What's your thing? So I'm talking about music all the time, but what kind of companies are you? What's your businesses that you're doing?
I am a CCO for a video production company that works.
Say what CCO is.
Chief Customer Officer.
Okay.
So I'm a Chief Customer Officer for New Motion, which is a video production company that works specifically with behavioral psychology. So figuring out like where on the screen you're going to look and what does that look like. And so they do social content for enterprise companies across the world. I'm also the Chief Experience Officer for Teal, which is a company that creates a product that helps job seekers. So there's a tool that helps you build out your resume, helps you track all the jobs that you've been a part of. And then I do advising for other startups and agencies in the community space, in the social care and customer experience space.
Wow. New Motion, though. That sounds strange. Like where you're looking on the screen. That's that stuff that I worry about. That's it. It's like, they're watching my eyes. They're watching my eyeballs.
They're not watching your eyes, but there's clear understanding of where you're going to look. Yeah. Ted Harrison, who's the founder, he was the head of production at Twitter. And so he took like video directing courses in college. And so he learned a lot of that stuff that they teach you there. And I think there's probably the best way to describe it is if you look at Steven Spielberg's content, if you look at some of his movies and specific scene shots, you can actually see like where he's placing things like that's actually in the foreground, but you're going to look at it. And he knows that you're going to look at it because of the way he's framing the shot, things like that. It's very, very cool. That's
good photography. That's the photography element of things.
Yep.
Good sonic engineering too, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Understand where stuff sits in perception, not in literal world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I'm always editing the Slackers photos when they'll post some stuff and I'll be like, Jesus, why did you post this? We look like hell. It's like, I don't know. It's just a picture. It's a picture. Yeah. It's us on the stage. I mean, what, I'm like, yeah, I got a microphone in my eyeball. This guy's like looking down sweaty. I'm like, it just looks like chaos. I'm like, and not in a good way, Yeah, photo is a big. I mean, I know we're all visually activated, especially these days, right? So everybody's got to have good,
Yep.
So
that's interesting.
If you could ask Christina anything at all about just like keeping that connection as close and alive with the audience, is there anything besides like Ask Me Anythings or anything like that you would want to just know? Like, you're like, I know I could do this part better. I mean, you've already figured out how to not die. Well, mostly stay away from weird white lines in Italy.
Right.
But don't snort flour.
That's right. And the zombies.
Stay away from zombies. Stay away from Italian flour when it's, what would you want?
No, I'm terrible at the digital world. I mean, I exist. I post. I do whatever I do. I was actually looking for somebody to try to help the Slackers, to try to like, we need somebody to just post these things or tell us, what are we supposed to do with this? Like, just give me a schedule and I'll do it. Or, you read the signs and tell me what to do. All right, you need this kind of a post this week, or every 3 days or once a day or, and I was looking around. I can't find anybody that does this.
I have people I can send you.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's cool.
And a question back on that, Christina. Like, does he need that still with the real world meet space reality of like getting in a band and driving around and playing all these shows all over the country and world? Does he still need that? How do you answer that? Why?
Because you need to be a part of people's everyday lives. You have no idea that like you post a story and because of that, someone puts on a vinyl or someone listens and looks for a show. And so what you are doing is you need to look at social as breadcrumbs. Because everyone's just assuming like, I'll do one post and that's going to like fix everything. But that's not enough. Everything that you put on social is a breadcrumb. It's going to make people think about a concert that they went to. It's going to make people think about a song or a city that they love to visit. It isn't necessarily going to direct straight to you, but then if it does send them to a positive memory, you get to be a part of that. You are attached to that little piece of their day. And so how can you create breadcrumbs so that you get to be a part of their day? So like, for example, you're going on tour. How can you keep them updated with your tour or give them like a day in the life? There's so many people who are like, all right, cool, touring band, but what does that actually entail? What does that look like? What's the good, bad, ugly? Yeah. Like, there's so many people who are like, I've watched Spinal Tap. Is that an accurate description of what that's like?
Sadly.
Like, there's people who are like, is that accurate? Is that what it's like even in the year of our Lord 2024? Like, things like that. There's little things that people want to know that maybe they're too afraid to ask, or maybe they've just always been curious. So think about if you were yourself pre-Slackers and you were thinking about this life and you were thinking about what that could look like. What are the questions that you would be afraid to ask, but you would want to know the answers to? And start that off with your content.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. I mean, for me, it's rough because I don't wake up. I mean, as you can see, I still look like I just woke up. So a lot of times when I'm like, oh, I got to make a post. Oh, yeah. Hey, we're at the truck stop, and I'm like, take the picture. It's like, nobody wants to see that. That's like,
Well, no one wants to see you at the truck stop, but they might want to see like, all right, cool. Great example. Let's say that you're all jumped in the van and you're on a road trip to your next tour. What music are you listening to?
Okay.
What is a band's road trip music? That's
okay. The things
to know. Like you're a punk band. Do you listen to punk on the way to your next thing, or do you listen to something like melody? Like, what do you listen to?
Okay. All right. I could see that. Details around the.
Yeah. Or you could do like a breakdown of like Rocker Reacts. And it's, you talk about all these movies that are around bands. Like, how accurate is this? So like, all right, I got nothing to do today. So I'm going to watch Almost Famous and I'm going to give you my perspective as someone who's done the thing. Final Tap.
That's interesting.
I'm gonna, like,
there's no chef reactions for that.
There's nothing for that. Road. Like, I think that's cool. Like, stories on the road. Like, what is that like? What music are you watching? What videos are you doing? What books are you reading? Because that's just going to make people feel like they get to be a part of your day. Like, someone's a fan of yours and you're like, hey, I just started reading this book. And someone's like, I love that book. I literally just finished it. Like, that just they immediately feel more connected to you for no other reason than you just shared what book you have and they've read it in the past. Like, it's the tiny tethers. It's the little tiny things. It's not the big things. It's the little things that make people feel connected to you. And so how can you do that throughout your day?
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. That's actually good advice. Because it's that makes it a bit more reachable. Like I feel like it's more within reach than saying, oh, you got to show yourself eating lunch. And it's like, God, nobody. I never want anybody to see me eat lunch.
I hate the videos where it's someone in their car and they start eating. And I was like, yeah, you can tell me the meaning of life. I've scrolled past already. I don't care. I don't. I'm going to tell you that, like, you're not going to tell me the meaning of life in the Taco Bell parking lot. Like, I'm just going to go ahead and take a guess. I'm just like, that's not going to be the point of this video.
But who amongst us has not pondered the meaning of life?
Well,
in a Taco Bell parking lot.
That is the moment.
We didn't find the answer, but we did ask. Yeah.
I want to be... Go ahead. Tell us the story.
No, I was going to say, I tour with somebody that's very good at finding those moments. Like, oh, there's a good backdrop.
Yeah.
and sets up the camera and goes, just walk by, just do it once, twice, walk by. We'll take a still from it. We'll make a little loop of video, whatever it is. It's just a little blah, blah. And I think, I should do that with the Slackers. And I never do that because it's just not, they don't even dress good when they're,
To be fair, I don't want a punk band to be aesthetic. Like, I don't want you to look like a Pinterest board. Like, that sounds weird to me.
Mm.
So actually, I would say your content shouldn't be polished.
Yeah, not polished, but yeah.
Yeah, it should feel punk. It should feel like, all right, we're going to watch this movie and we're going to react to it. And I'm going to tell you, like, I'm not going to pull punches. I'm just going to call you, like.
But I like that, though. Those are good ideas. The books, the movies, little details of like, this is something, maybe like a little still life or something,
Or like setting up, whenever you're setting up for a show, have a camera and have it on time lapse. And then that, like, you don't even have to put anything behind it. Just show the setup at like 3 times speed. Because some are like, all right, when you say set up, what does that even mean? How long does that take? What does that even look like?
Yeah,
That'd be cool. Like, think behind the scenes content, think day in the life, think what is the stuff that isn't silly, but are moments of my day that actually are important. Like, I'm going to jam to this song because it hypes me up before a show.
Interesting.
That's cool to know. If people are fans, they're going to want to know that information. They're going to clamor for it.
Huh.
And then they're going to tell you in the comments what they want you to do next.
All right. This is like the Taylor Swift tricks over here.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah. They're gonna tell you. They're gonna tell you in the chat, be like, love this. What are you doing tomorrow? What books are you reading? Like, they're gonna ask in the comments, and they're gonna give you ideas for the next video, the next picture, or the next whatever.
Yeah. And then hopefully you reach somebody that, that's the other thing too, is you never know how to reach somebody you don't know already. How do you find the person that, we that's the same thing. We play shows and somebody brings a friend. Oh, wow, I never heard of you guys. But digitally, I don't know how to reach who we don't already know.
Hashtags, tag cities. Tag your location, because that's going to help other people who are in that area see it. And then hashtags, but don't go crazy. Like, no more than 6 or 7.
Oh, yeah? And tag the city. Like, people are following their city. There's like, oh, St. Louis. What's happening in St. Louis?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll take your advice. I'll see. I'll check back in and let you know.
Let me know how it goes. Yeah. But people want to see what's happening in their city, or maybe they are wanting to travel. And so, like, if I'm traveling, I'll go on Pinterest and I'll go on Instagram and I'll look for cities to see, like, what's the vibe, like, what's happening there.
Oh.
And if you've tagged the city or you've tagged the club or the wherever you're playing, it's going to show up.
Oh, that's a good, because I do that sometimes, but so just like a hashtag, whatever. Yeah, St. Louis, Chicago, hashtag.
You're going to get all that Emo's Pizza and fried ravioli crowd. They're just going to come flooding out the Slackers gigs once they go, I don't have to eat fried ravioli anymore.
They're already coming, the fried ravioli crowd.
They're already bought in.
You're big with them. Big with them.
Yeah.
I can understand why.
Hey, anyway, I'm sorry I cut you off before.
No. This was great. I was actually really hoping. So what's really cool about this is just me geeking out for a second here on this exact concept, is like that was actual advice. Like, I got advice for me from Christina. And Vic, you feel the same way? Like, I feel like, you didn't get therapy, but you got some free consultations, it looks like, out of this thing.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, the thing is, I feel everybody's, we all do the same things,
Yeah.
And it's funny to us. When we'll read something in, like, Billboard magazine says, it's much better to sell your records on tour, a new place to sell records, not in the record store. And we're like, well, that's great
Merch
news
tables
for us.
Yeah.
We never sold a record in the record store. We sold some, but that was never where we made our sales. Hey, new ideas, T-shirts that do this and that, And just like, get in a van and go on tour. The punks invented that, and we've been doing it. In some ways, I'm sad that it got to be public knowledge in a way. We're all doing it now. Now everybody's there. I have to somehow find the next thing to do, or the next strategy, or reinvent it. And I'm back to playing. I love playing backyard shows. I play backyard house shows. I've gone back opposite direction because now it's boutique, you know?
Yeah.
I'm always happy to change my business model, you know? And if you had the business guy in the band, he'll talk to you about that too.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm always the pioneer, and then I go to him. We should play this garage, you know? Like, what are you talking about? We played garages when we were 16. Actually, we're back to garages, you know?
Yeah.
But that's the stuff that you can't commodify. And that's what Christina was saying earlier. That's the stuff of the highest value. That's that bucking of that trend.
Yeah.
And that's why like having the behind the scenes content and having the stuff that's you is going to do better, because like, and I've said this quite a few times, because AI is taking over, and I have my thoughts on AI. I'm not 100% against it, but it's a slippery slope. The way to combat the negative effects of AI is to be unapologetically human. And I can't think of a better way to describe punk than unapologetically human.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So when you're creating content, it needs to come from the lens of how can we be unapologetically human when how we talk, how we perform, where we go, and saying like, I want to play a garage because I want to jam today. I want to play. That's intrinsically human, but you're not doing it for the money. You're doing it because you want to play. You want to make noise. You want to go.
But that's what the robots are talking to each other about in the language that they've invented that we can't understand. They're like, I want to play today. Can we jam? You know?
Is that the Tesla robot talking to the other Tesla robot in the garage, taking over your garage?
Sex is, you know, it's all there. It's happening, you know?
All right. Well, in the interest of being human, I have some notes from this conversation. I'm going to take us out before we devolve into robot sex or whatever. This is the right time to get there.
This is where it goes when you give you the microphone on stage. That's what we need the drummer to be like.
The other side of the bell curve where it
this
like
is the other side.
Into...
See, you peek one last great Dave Grohl story. So watching, it was him and the Chili Peppers. They did this tour when I think when John Frusciante comes back to the band. And so like we go to see them at this new built like converted hockey arena in northeastern Pennsylvania where I grew up. So come back, my brothers and a couple of friends of ours, we go see this show, and Foo Fighters and Chili Peppers are playing together.
I'm seeing the Chili Peppers in like 9 days.
Good times. Good times. Also, great band have you seen the thing of them playing at like their kids' school?
Yes.
Oh my God.
Oh, it's just pure joy.
Ridiculous.
It's just a bunch of kids on the stage with them, and you're just like, they're having more fun doing this than they've had. And so, so Dave Grohl decides he's going to jump off stage with his guitar, and he's going to do a victory lap, like for the second to last song or something around. I
love
the
that
arena.
man, but gravity does not like him back. Like he keeps falling off
couple
stages.
Injuries.
Like,
so now this is like in
I'm gonna wrap him in bubble wrap. And
this is like 2001 or 2. Like this is at least this was maybe post Powdered Donut OD Dave Grohl, but pre whatever. Yeah. So. But he gets like halfway around, and like the whole crowd's screaming, he's cheering, he's running. He gets to like the full back, and he literally just like is like doubled over. He's like, this is so bigger than it looks like from the stage. I was like, this guy has my respect forever. I'm not alone. All right. So I got some notes. So we talked about the beginning, Christine, you made this point about just about making it on your own and that being a function of who you inspire. Vic, with the Slackers and everything, just this career, both inspiring the band. I mean, I'm a direct benefit of like my high school and whatever bands like opening for you guys. And here you still are making music today. You're inspiring the people in the crowd to go out. You can go out and do this stuff on your own, but you're also inspiring to keep the band together. And I love that point about 20 years on, you still have the new guys in the band. Like that's just a hysterical point. Christina, you brought up in tech, you burn out. I thought this was funny, Vic, but in music, you're literally a burnout. We've all met them. We got to all go listen to Strike, the Hozier song. We had plenty of good Dave Grohl stories in the middle. This point, and Vic, you were making about like the higher you go, actually the more human you get. So it's like you're superhuman at the lowest level playing in the garage. But then you could be on the greatest, biggest stage in the world. Hear Christina saying, please, please, please play this song. The guy in the middle who's got the ego thing is probably going to ignore and go, no, I wrote the perfect set list for this. I'm thinking of Spinal Tap and Stonehenge and like
things like that.
Yeah, that's like where you are if you're in the middle in the wrong place, but there's a right place to be in the middle. I love that you invoked Albini. I've been on a huge like Albini content bender. There's lots of stuff on Cultish Creative about that lately. This mid of the right kind of mid is really cool. Vic, I love that you said everyone's creative. You brought in the plumbers and the attorneys. I don't know it all, but all truth is in the artists. I love that sentiment so much. Christina, you didn't say it this time, but I've heard you say it elsewhere. And I kept thinking about this because it goes back to that idea of creativity. You've said before, community is what builds trust. And I love this idea because then that's the inspiration too. You don't just trust the accountant. You don't just trust the chief customer officer. Like you need the sense of community with them to be inspired by them to then do the creative work together. Bringing up this point that it only works if you're good because the work is the work. That's another message of how to be inspired. This idea of building goodwill and building bad will. I don't know if you've coined the term bad will or if you got it from somewhere.
I have no idea.
I want to credit you with this. I don't know how I've never thought of bad will. And
the existence of goodwill presupposes bad will.
Exactly. I think Viktor Frankl might have said that.
Viktor Frankl might have said that. This too, and this is where, like, you know, my wife, to the God willing that she makes it this far in this interview, if she listens to it, she'll be like, Christina took you to therapy like 3 times over. Get her back whenever you can. Over time, people tell on themselves. And again, goodwill inspires, bad will inspires just in another direction. Vic, actually, the thing you need to just corner: deadlocked mediocrity. And I mean,
mediocrity.
Like, let's make some shirts. We'll make them extra metal looking. Deadlock mediocrity is fantastic. If you guys aren't familiar with it, Venkatesh Rao, if you don't know that name, are you familiar with premium mediocre? The term premium mediocre. Christina's nodding her head. Vic, we're gonna send you some stuff. Yeah,
please.
Great way. It explains the existence of Panera in a way that I just.
Oh no,
I didn't get Panera until I read that piece, and I was like, I get why this exists.
Yes,
the boomer parents needed premium mediocrity for their kids because their kids couldn't just go on eating McDonald's Happy Meals until they were 30. When they were unemployed, they were like, "Oh, we just got to give you a fancier McDonald's for you to go to." Anyway, you should read that. But that's part of the commoditized everything about what just like. If you take away the originality, it makes it easier to copy. And that's why everything sucked. That's why the deadlocked mediocrity comes in, because we just made it easier to copy. Christina, this point about Taylor Swift and just motivating her fan base. Vic, you countered with, yeah, the punks did this first. They've been doing it forever. But I think this idea of activating your fans without selling out, that's the thing that the punks know that everybody else trying to copy Taylor Swift doesn't know. The punks know how to activate the fan base without being a sellout. I know that word's come to mean different things.
Well, punk is guerrilla, like it's guerrilla marketing. It's
without losing the ethos, without losing the ethic.
Yeah.
And that's probably the key. And again, I'm going to keep taking it back there. That's inspiring. This idea to go to where your people are, the advice that you gave, go on Facebook or go on Instagram or go to the places where the people are to leave those breadcrumbs. And three big points from the end here. Music is therapy. 2, inspiration is a shared chord memory forming. I want to say that again. Inspiration is a shared chord memory forming. And 3, music's the best therapy, the best inspiration, because it's collaborative. It's the one place where we take the thing from like everyday life. We sit, we break bread together, we leave breadcrumbs for others when we can't break bread with them in the same room. That's magic.
Yep.
I want to thank both of you so much for joining me for this today. Christina, tell the people where they can find you if they want to learn more.
Yeah, I live on Twitter for better for worse of that Christina G. You can also find me on LinkedIn by searching Christina Garnett, and you can go to my website at pocketcco.com.
Fantastic. Vic, tell the people where to find you. Where can they see the Slackers whenever this comes out?
The Slackers are easy to find. I mean, you can find us on Instagram. It's the Slackers Band. You can find me, Vic Ruggiero. That's it. It's like Vic_Ruggiero. You'll see a picture of me playing guitar. Facebook, all that stuff. I don't really check the messages on stuff like that, but maybe, Christina might tell me that I should check the messages, I don't know. But
not on Facebook. I'm not a Facebook girly.
Yeah. But yeah, whether, you Google us, find us. Instagram is where I find us. I know we got a Twitter, we got a TikTok that I don't run. But yeah, we got new records out. We're on Pirates Press Records. The Slackers are on Pirates Press. I got solo records out. I hate to say Google me, but yeah, Vic Ruggiero. There's YouTube clips.
We're here for all the Googling needs. So thank you both so much for joining me. This has been an absolute blast. You're watching Cultish Creative on YouTube. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks. This was cool.
Thanks for joining us. Like, comment, and hey, subscribe below to Cultish Creative on YouTube if you haven't already. As the good compliance people want me to remind you, Matt Ziegler, that's me, is a managing director at Sunpoint Investments. The opinions expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Sunpoint Investments. No information on this podcast should be construed as investment advice. Securities discussed in the podcast may be holdings of clients of Sunpoint Investments. I hope you've been entertained. I hope you found this useful. I hope you talk to a professional before you try any of this stuff at home. And most of all, I hope you've subscribed. Be nice to each other out there. And don't forget, head over to cultishcreative.com and let's make curiosity a habit together. And I'm out.